I'm going to talk today about just making a difference. But what I've really come to realize is that, taking responsibility is really, really key. I found that we live in this world of everybody. It's always somebody else's fault. You ever notice that? And of course, it's perpetuated now with social media and with the fellow down south of us, who's never his fault. We won't mention any names because they'll veto my talk here. But we have to start stepping up and taking responsibility. I was a former professional hockey player. I was very fortunate. I was told many, many times that I couldn't do it. With me, it was my size. Back in the day, they weren't all the way they are today, 6'5" and 6'3", these monsters playing hockey. But even back in the day, I was a little bit on the small side. And they kept telling me that I wasn't big enough to play. I come from a poor background, but I grew up in the streets, and I grew up kind of in an environment where you really didn't listen too much to what anybody else said. You created your own kind of opinion of yourself, and then that's what you bought into, and you didn't allow people to change that. And so as a kid, I decided that this is what I was going to be. I knew I was talented enough. I knew that I had the drive and the heart. And so I just set out to do that. And every time somebody said that to me, that I wasn't big enough or anything else, it really literally went in one ear and out the other. And so that became kind of the way I lived my life. And I never really wanted to check with anybody else to find out if this is the way. I determined what I wanted to do, built a plan, and then listened to a lot of people. And this is what I encourage you today. I'm not an expert in anything. I'm not a guru. I'm here to share some wisdom, hopefully, of things that work for me. And that's another thing that I will caution everybody listening to this, is that there's not a plan out there that works for everybody. We're constantly being told, do this, do that, you'll create this, you'll create that. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. The only thing I've ever heard, there's a formula for success that was shared to me by one of my mentors, great guy, and he said to me, the formula for success, and again, I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. One formula is good for everybody. And he said, no, listen, I'm very serious about this. The formula for success is this, it's very simple. It's a consistent effort over time. Now, when he said that, my first impression was, wow, that's pretty cool. And then I thought, and he told me, he said, now the only variable in that is time. Some people it will take 6 months, some people it will take 6 years. But the reality is that if you continue to do something, if you pick what you're good at and you take action and you continually improve and look at the things that you want to accomplish, you're going to get there. And time is the only variable, so you have to just keep going. So we're going to talk about these 7 things because they're really important to me and they've helped me create the success. And now I came out of retirement to build this new social enterprise, and it's just going wonderfully. We actually built this model so that we could build a homeless shelter in downtown Toronto. That was a goal that I set because my mother wanted me to do that. In fact, when I came out of retirement, I was looking to do something, and I said, Mom, I really want to do something special because every one of my mentors, and you guys might have heard this before, but this always drove me crazy. It's like the insurance guy telling you, so like when you die, make sure you leave enough for everybody behind. And the first impression is like, wow, like I'm dead, like really, I don't want to talk about that. And so my mentors always said to me, Stephen, what do you want on your tombstone when you're dead? My first impression was, who cares? I'm dead, right? I'm not going to be able to read it. But, I instinctively thought that he made a difference in the world. It's one of the things I and maybe it's a little bit of an ego thing or whatever, but I wanted to make a difference in the world. I feel we're here for a reason, so I wanted to make a difference in the world. And they would say to me, so are you? And of course, I would say, yes, of course I am. I'm on boards of charities, and I give, and I do all this kind of stuff. But deep inside, something always said, no, you can do way more. Come on, let's go. Let's create something. And so when I came back, and my mother said, actually, her wish was, I want you to end homelessness. I thought, whoa, okay. I didn't sell my company. I'm not Bill Gates. But what I will do is build a homeless shelter. And as we set out about putting the plans to do that, something was telling me that that's not big enough. Ever kind of get that feeling where you want to do something big, like really make a difference? I look at some of these guys out there, and I'm sure we've all out there asked the question, well, why not me? Why can't I do something? Why can't I make a difference in the world? Why can't I create something that's going to do that? And for me, you know, I've always kind of strived to be the best I can be, as it says in number 7. And so I really wanted to make a difference in the world and do something special. So I decided that I was going to not only build a homeless shelter, but also challenge and build a collaborative model where I could do a whole bunch of different things. And so we created our RTG group, which is basically a collaborative model where you buy food from a for-profit social enterprise, which in turn goes to a charity, which is how you get your tax receipt, and then as a result of that, you get a discount app, and so everybody wins more than they put in. And I think that's one of the key fundamentals in any business model we built and for sustainability, is make sure that every touch point is gonna win. Because, you know, we set up these things to fail. Because when we're asking people to put in time and do things and out of the goodness of their heart, eventually that's going to fall apart. So we built this model around that. But I want to just kind of go through these things for you so you understand how important these are to our lives and how important it has been to my life and the success I've created. So be prepared to pay the price. We all know there's a price to pay. There's a price to pay for success, and you're either going to pay it or not. You don't have to. It's not for everybody. Everyone's always saying this is for, it's not for everybody. Some people should just go through their life and they have children, and that's a price to pay. But they, you know, they that's how they live their life, and they're very comfortable with that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want true success, there is a price to pay, and sometimes it's very steep. For every action, there's a reaction. This is really a kind of an important one because we don't understand this sometimes. We do these things, we say these things, we do something. We don't understand that there's this reaction to everything we say and do. And make sure you're aware of that. Make sure you're aware of when you're talking to people or when you have actions, that there are consequences, there are reactions to that. Focus on what matters. Man, oh man, I listen all the time. You can go on social media and read some stuff, and you listen to these people. I just had a conversation this morning with a friend of mine from Thailand, and he was ranting about something, and I messaged him, and I said, yes, so what? So what? Well, what? What are you going to do about it? When I'm often asked about the guy down south, I'm saying, well, I don't have a vote. There's nothing I can do about it. What do you want me to do? So why focus on it? Focus on what matters. When it's all about the action, I'm often, when I'm mentoring people, I have a mentorship program for young people. I love dealing with young people, the energy and the enthusiasm. And the one thing I see that they're lacking sometimes is the right direction. But they're always talking about, you know, a plan and knowledge. And I said to one guy the other day, I said, you know, knowledge is useless. And the poor young guy just about fell off the chair. He's got this MBA and everything else, all the titles. He says, what are you talking about? I said, it's not the knowledge, it's the applied knowledge. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you're not applying it, well, what good is it? It's about applied knowledge, applied plan of action. You build a plan, you got to take action. A plan on its own is not going to do anything. That's why so many of these things fail. You see out there great ideas that fail. How come? They didn't have a plan and they didn't execute the plan. So it's extremely important. This next one blows me away because I've been hearing it my entire life. And of course, now that I'm 35, that's not funny. But anyway, now that I've reached a mature age, I still haven't figured out who they are. Does anybody have any idea who they are? I've been hearing it my whole life. They say this, and they say that, and you know, that's not what they do, and who are they? Who are they? Who are those people out there that are always influencing my life by their opinions? I have no idea. But one day I'm going to find out. But today, I'm not really too concerned with who they are because I don't listen to what they have to say. And I wouldn't if I were you. Get educated. Decide for yourself what's best for you. Take responsibility. I told you when I started, the whole talk was about taking responsibility. We don't do it enough. We're always blaming somebody else. It's always somebody else's fault. Sometimes you just have to step up. In fact, not sometimes, all the time. You need to step up and say, this is my responsibility. I'll tell you, when you do, you feel pretty good about yourself. And that becomes a habit. I take responsibility all the time, and that's not beating myself up. And by the way, I make mistakes every single day, because the way I get better is to learn and to make mistakes. I'm not afraid to make them. Sometimes they're costly. That's okay, I learn from them. The only thing I ever beat myself up on is if I make that mistake the second time, because then I feel like a bit of an idiot. Like you can't learn from the first time. Be the best you can be. Obviously, we always want to do that. Sometimes we take a little time off, we kind of relax a little bit, but you always want to do it. Every day, get up every day. Every day I go on Facebook, and I write a post every day. And that post is always positive. I usually get it from somebody else, and I take it and it just resonates with me. So I'll write a little code and I post it on there. And often I get the people on that are connected with me and say, how do you be positive every day? How do you do this? And we appreciate the fact that you post this. The reality is I'm a little selfish on that. I post that for me. Every day I start with a positive quote, something that resonates with me, something that I want to do that day. Today, actually, if you go on my Facebook, it was about taking responsibility. There was a post by a guy that I follow, and he was about taking responsibility and the importance of doing that. And I thought, wow, how appropriate this is. So, I was doing this talk, but you've got to be positive. You've got to take control of your life and be the best that you can be, because life is great, but we only get one shot. It's only one time that we get this go around. So we've got to be the best that we can be. Put it out there, take responsibility for your life, and focus on what matters. Because all the other stuff is just fluff. It's just stuff. And our lives are filled with stuff. And you got to kind of declutter and focus on what matters. So thank you very much for your time. Remember, always live in 3D, dream, dare, and do. Thank you very much.